Now we are going to start today's lecture. We'll talk about Abraham and Sarah, and this will be our last subject. And we will deal with the most remarkable event in the life of Abraham and Sarah. Let's read here what the Holy Text says. It says like this: Now it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham. God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. Now see, after these things, what were these things that had passed? All the history of Abraham until then, since God called Abraham at 75 years old, until this moment, over 30 years have passed. Abraham was serving God from altar to altar, from obedience to obedience. After several tests of faith and obedience, there came the greatest test of all, the greatest test of faith that God gave Abraham. God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. Look at Abraham's answer. Here I am. I'm ready. Then he said, Take now. Look, take now, not after, not when you feel it, but now, your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love. See how God refers to Isaac. Look how God is specific in what he asks. And go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So let's understand this test here. I think there are many things, countless things, and we can talk about this biblical passage for weeks. But let's focus here on our goal, which is your love life. Why did God ask Abraham his son Isaac? Why is that? If you could stop and think, why is that? What a crazy request. How many years had Abraham waited for that son? How many years? 100 years. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. 100 years old. Let's say he didn't wait 100 years because when he was a child, he didn't wait for that. But all the time he was married, he waited for at least 60 years. He waited for that child. And finally, he had son Isaac. You can imagine how Abraham became a doting dad. How Abraham played with his son. How he took his son wherever he went. How he taught everything to his son. Because Isaac would be his successor. He was going to be the next leader of his tribe. So Abraham was doing his best to transfer everything that he was and he had to his son, his only son, Isaac. And suddenly God, when Isaac was around 8 or 10 years old, God came to Abraham and made this crazy request. How come? Isaac was Abraham's descent guarantee, Abraham's future. How would he explain to Sarah that request? If he didn't want to subject his wife to having see her husband bear children through another woman, how would he now take from Sarah the child she had been waiting for so long? In other words, you can imagine the maelstrom of emotions that started within Abraham the moment God gave that test to him. So why? The question is why. If you think straight, Isaac had everything to become the God of Abraham. Because of Abraham's future, his whole life revolved around that son. What I mean is, Isaac was literally his life, the guarantee of the continuity of his life. So Isaac had all the danger, all probability, the risk of becoming God to Abraham here on earth. He's everything. That's why when God asked, he said, your son, your only son, because Abraham had Ishmael. He could have said, well, Lord, since you want a son, then take Ishmael, son of my wife's maid, of servant. But God was specific, Isaac. So God wanted Isaac and still emphasized what? Whom you love. So God rubbed salt into Abraham's wound. I know how much you love this boy, but now you're going to have to prove if you love him more or if you love me more. And Abraham ended up with a hard decision to make. What am I going to do? But if you keep reading the text that we're not going to read here because it's long, you will see that promptly in the next dawn, probably God spoke to him at night, and early in the morning, the next morning, Abraham was already up preparing an animal, the donkey to carry wood, the material for the sacrifice, 2 servants that would help him on the way, and Isaac with him. And he didn't say anything. He didn't tell Sarah. He didn't. Sarah wouldn't bear to hear that from Abraham. He was silent. He didn't tell Isaac. He didn't tell the servants. He didn't talk to Sarah. He went on a 3 days journey. So it wasn't something that God said to him, look, do it now. Something that he would do in the heat of the moment by impulse. I'll do it fast and it'll be over. No, Abraham had to walk for 3 days with his son by his side to have time to think about what he would do. Also time to give up if he wanted to give up. Therefore, it was a test that I think few would have the ability to pass.
Yeah, and most people, they wouldn't say that their God is another one that's not God, right? They always think, if you say, who is your God? They say, no, my God is the God of Israel, the Lord Jesus and all. But the word God, it means the one who is praised. The one who is praised. The one that you serve him. So God is the one that you serve. So when you have a God that is not the true God, the only God, the creator of heaven and earth, then you're putting yourself at risk. Because let's use the example of Abraham. If Isaac was his God, Isaac wouldn't have how to be a God, right? No one is able to be God because God is the almighty powerful God needs to have the structure to deal with your weaknesses. God needs to have the understanding of who you are, of why you do what you do. So Isaac, or husband, or wife, or child, are people who don't have a structure to be God. I'm not able to be God. I don't have a way to be a goddess. There's no way. If Renato sees me as a god, if he's going to serve me, he's going to lower himself, he's going to humiliate himself, he's going to be less before me, and he's going to have behaviors that are going to take away all the admiration I have for him. So the only one that has a structure to have our praise, our life, our heart, our essence is God. No one else in this world. But many people, they have other gods. Even though they say that God of Israel is their only God, but they have other gods. And you know when you have another God, when you see your reactions. And your reactions, you're able to see this. So we hear, for example, sometimes the woman, she's married with a man that abuses her, that hits her, that cheats on her, and she stays with him. She stays with him there. She endures it all. She submits to him. Why? Because she serves him. Because he's her God. She's not able to live without him. So she accepts everything that he does wrong for her or to her. That's her God. And then she comes here to church and she says, my God, my God. But you're talking to who? Because God is not your God. Your God is your husband. And that's a danger because you're imprisoned to that person. You're tied to that thing. Sometimes the God of someone is their career, it's their job. They're losing their marriage, the person's losing their children. They don't have a relationship with their children anymore. They're losing their faith because of their job, of their career. That there is their God. They serve it. They are stressed with everyone. They're a person that is screaming at everyone. No one can stand them. Why? Because they serve that career. That career comes in first place. It's their God. And a career has no way to sustain you. When I place God in first place, my God in first place, so he helps me with everything. He has a structure to be my God. I'm going to serve him, and he's not going to put me down because of that. I'm not going to stop being who I am because of that. He's not going to mistreat me. He's not going to take advantage of me. He's not going to use me. He's going to honor me. He's going to do good for me because he's my God. No one else is able to do this. So sometimes when someone dies that was your God, it's over. That person who stayed died as well. Their life is over. There's no more. There's no more color in this world. There's no more reason to live because their God is gone. So we don't have the structure to have any other God in this world. And God wanted to show that. He wanted to teach us that. He wanted to help us. He wanted to help Abraham. That's why he asked for Isaac, because he started something great with Abraham. And I imagine, that God saw that Abraham was putting Isaac, Isaac was starting to be Abraham's God.
It was a risk. He would probably put him in God's place because, as Cristiane said, many people do it unintentionally. You'll hardly see someone consciously saying, my husband is my God. My work is my God. I am my God. You'll hardly hear someone saying this. But in reality, if you look, you will see that person's God is what they serve, what they love, what brings them laughter. Interestingly, the name Isaac, the meaning of the name Isaac is laugh. So what brings you laughter, what brings you pleasure, what makes you joy, what makes you open a smile from ear to ear, whether it's a person or a thing that is a threat or has all the probability of becoming your God. God didn't want to take Isaac from Abraham so much that after Abraham had passed the test, God didn't let him sacrifice Isaac. And he didn't want to take Isaac from Abraham, take away his laughter. What he wanted was to take Isaac out of Abraham's heart. Abraham, you can have Isaac, but what you can't is let Isaac have you. Isaac can't be your everything. He can't be your Lord. He can't be your reason for living. So when God gave that test to Abraham, it was for Abraham to put Isaac in the right place in his heart and not take God from his place in his heart. That happens when we have an Isaac in our life. And everyone has an Isaac in life. There's a big risk that this Isaac moves to God's place in our heart. You put this Isaac as the main thing in your life, so that becomes your everything. For instance, you may have already heard of people who killed themselves after the end of a relationship. They killed their ex first, and after that person killed themselves. You may know many cases like this. They're countless. And also those who do not commit this, but threaten and say, so look, if you leave me, I'll kill myself. What a situation. I mean, if you're not with me, I have no more reason to live. My life is meaningless, so I'd rather die. In other words, that person has become their God. This is their Isaac. This is their God. Therefore, the test that God made to Abraham has to do with this ease of transferring all the love you have for a person to the place that belongs to God. When he spoke, take your son, your only son, whom you love, and sacrifice for me on Mount Moriah, he was saying, in other words, this is a proof of love. You will have to decide who you love the most. And look at the risk, the danger of your love life. The name says it all. Loved one. Loved one. Cristiane, my loved one. So this loved one is probably the person you love the most in the world. This person can possibly occupy God's place in your life. It is a competition. You see, what is the first great commandment that God has given to us? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. You shall love the Lord your God. The first great commandment means that God has to be first. He won't accept that you love anyone or anything more than him. But in your love life, you run the risk of committing this because the person is your loved one. It's the person you want near you more than anything. So this competition is too great. Your husband can become your God. Your wife, your girlfriend can become your God. Your love life, the dream of getting married can become your God, your Isaac. And if that happens to you, then you'll end up losing it because nothing and no one can occupy this place in your life without disappointing you. Nothing. except God. So this is when many married people suffer. You say in our book that you made me the sun of your planet. Part of your insecurity came from it and was suffocating because I couldn't meet Cristiane's expectations. It's terrible when you marry or you are married to someone who puts you on a pedestal because you will never be able to meet that person's expectations, as it was our case.
Yeah, because you love too much. We have to love our husband, our wife, yes, a lot. But when it's that kind of love that the person being the reason of your life, that's too dangerous because you don't see yourself anymore. You only see that person. You only see what they do and what they don't do. You do everything because of them. Everything that you do, you go get dressed because of them. You go, you fix the house because of them. Everything that you do is thinking about them. And they are a normal person who comes home, they want to rest, and then you did so much for them that you expect that person to do the same for you. And they don't do that. And then you start to feel that he doesn't love you as much. And then what do? You do more. You do more and more and more. And you start lowering yourself, putting yourself down. You forget about yourself. You don't think, wait, but why am I doing this? Why do I need to prove to him or to her, right? Why do I have so much fear of losing that person? Why isn't he going to lose me? If he cheats on me, he's going to lose me. But we don't think like that. We think, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose him. As if you didn't have value. As if you didn't have anything else in this world, right? That's why it's very dangerous. And God, he is omnipresent, omniscient. He understands everything. He's in all places. So you have security with him. You know that you're not going to lose him. God, you know he's with you, that he's not going to betray you. You know that. He's always going to be there. He's true. He is the truth. He's never going to deceive you. He's never going to exchange you. So we can trust him with our life. You can trust in God with your life. He's never going to let you fall. When you put your life in his hands, of course, if your life is not in his hands, then there's nothing he can do. But the other person next to you, there's no way. And they feel overwhelmed. It's not that they stop loving, but they start feeling like, leave me alone. Oh, again, you again. You know, when that person wants to please you so much, that's always there on top and stop, leave me alone, right? You're annoyed by the person, right? And then you start to think that you don't love the person anymore because you don't want to be with them because they're annoying. And everything that they're doing, it's for love. But a love that is hurtful, a love that doesn't do good. We can't place anyone in first place in this world. No one has the structure for that. Only God. Only God. And another thing, sometimes you say, no, God is in first place. God is in first place. But you have to see your reactions, because if God is in first place, so his word is in first place. So what he says is the law. But some people, they say that he's in first place, but when they need to practice, they forget everything that they learned. Everything that they read, everything that God spoke to them, that God asked of them, they forget about it. So if it was this verse and God proved so-and-so, they didn't even say, here I am. They didn't even say, here I am, because the person there's just problems happening in the relationship. Somebody steps on their foot, they start cursing, they get grudges, everything that God says not to do, they start doing. They disrespect their husband, they hurt them, knowing that they need to respect. The man says this, oh, I'm not going to be with you anymore. You know something, it's better for us to leave each other. The Bible says you need to love your wife. But, in that moment of that test, of the difficulty, the person, they throw everything that they learned from God in the trash. That's a reaction that He's not your God.
Jesus had said that. He said, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word. See, he didn't say the one who loves me will tell me I love you every day. He will give me flowers, and he will do this or that. He said nothing romantic, nothing related to feelings. He said, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word. So love is you keeping your words, obeying. You consent with what the other person wants to please the other person, with what they want. Everything that is right. Love is not a feeling. So you say, I'm in love with this person. Let's say you're in love with this someone who does not treat you well. He or she is not good for you. It's a person who plays with your feelings, who does not assume the relationship with you, someone who does not introduce you to his family, a person who lies to you, but you're in love. Your need is so great that someone who gives you little attention, you're already in love with that person. Well, you think this is love, but this is not love. This is not love because God doesn't teach that. God doesn't teach this type of love. God doesn't teach passion. God warns us against those feelings. So if you're in love, but you say, no, God is the first one in my life. So you'll use your head, your intelligence, and say, I'm in love, but I'm going to do God's will. I won't submit myself to this because I'm humbling myself. I'm lowering myself to a person who mistreats me. This is not God's will. Therefore, if God is your God, you'll please him. You'll keep his word regardless what you feel. If God is God in your life and your marriage is going from bad to worse, you feel like letting this person go or make yourself disappear. But if God is the first in your life, then you will come to him and say, my God, you say here in your word that you hate divorce. You hate divorce, but I can only think about divorce because I can't take it anymore. I can't put up with my husband. I'm unhappy with my wife. So, Lord, you have to do something. You have to help me because I don't want to be in this horrible situation, unhappy in this marriage, but I also don't want to displease you. So I need your help. You will give me light. You will give me strength, guidance. What do I have to do to save my marriage? If you love God, you will seek in him strength. You seek in his word the direction, and you will obey and fight for your marriage.
And you're not afraid to lose because you have God in first place. So sometimes the person, they accept those crumbs of love, they accept betrayals and humiliations because they're afraid to lose. They think, whoa, if I say I don't want this, he's going to say, okay, so bye. And I don't want to lose him. Well, yeah, then you submit yourself to that. But when God is in first place in your life, you're not going to submit to what is unacceptable. And if you need to lose, you're going to say, my God, if he doesn't change, you're going to take care of me. I'm not going to stay alone. I'm not going to be suffering. He's going to lose. So you have that strength because your structure, your strength is God. So you're okay. Now, when he's not, when something else is your God, you don't have that. You don't have that strength. That's why most people don't have strength to end a relationship. They're dating for 10 years. They never move. They don't get married. Nothing happens. Because why don't they have strength to say, no, I don't accept this anymore, or you marry me, or it's over? Why? Because they don't have a structure in God. Their structure is something else. Their God is in another place. God is not their God.
Because love, understand, please, you who are married, single, man, woman, understand one thing about love. If you understand only one thing about love, understand this. Love can't and has no value if it's bought, if it's forced, if it's imposed. Love only has value when it's by a person's free choice. So you can't force that person to be with you, force that person to want you, beg for that person to want you. You can't do that. It seems that if you don't, this person won't stay with you. But what happens is the contrary. Even if that person stays with you, there is a small chance, but even if that person stays with you, it's worthless because it's not love. This is out of self-interest. It's pity, but it's not love. Love is when you choose this person out of billions. You say no to all the others and say yes to this one because you wanted to. You wanted to. This person that is with you has to want this. If she doesn't want to, will you force it? And if you do force it, will it be worth it? So what do you have to do? You have to turn to God, trust Him, make Him your God, and trust that the God who spoke here, it is not good that man should be alone. This God to whom you gave your life, you gave yourself, your marriage, your love life, your future. This God who said it is not good that man should be alone. This God who created woman for man and man for woman. This God who said, I am your husband. I am your creator, your husband. This God will not let you lack in your love life. Whether this person stays with you or not, whether this person chooses to love you or not, this God whom you serve will serve you. This was Abraham's faith. I don't understand why God wants to take away from me the person I love the most. I've waited so long for this. My future is in him. I don't understand why, but I'm sure. The text says, Paul spoke about it. He said Abraham was sure that God would resurrect Isaac from the ashes. So this faith of Abraham, of not understanding why or how, but of believing, having the assurance that even if he sacrificed Isaac in the Holocaust, because it wasn't just killing him, was burning him, turned into ashes, God could, from the ashes, make Isaac come back again. Abraham's faith made God say, okay, Abraham, you can stop. You don't have to do it because now I know you love me. Now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Amen. So when you have this relationship with God, I won't compromise my faith for someone. If you're alone, lonely, single, then a person appears saying that likes you, wants to marry you, wants to be with you, and so on. But that person doesn't want your God. He doesn't have faith, but he'll have a companion for you. He says he wants to marry you, respect your faith, but doesn't have your faith. If God is truly your God and you have a relationship with him and he is first in your life, at least you come to God and say, Lord, I'm pretty sure this didn't come from you. For sure this didn't come from you because you wouldn't give me a person who doesn't want you. As much as it seems a good match, although it seems to please me, but because he doesn't have you, he doesn't come from you. Therefore, darling, find another one. You have the strength to do so. And here comes the love paradox. It's the love paradox. When you come to this person and say like that, look, I really wanted to be with you, but I'm looking for someone who has the same faith in the same God and serves him as I do. So God bless you with another person. Now this person will want you more. And when this person shows that, you'll say, okay, but first you have to want God. This person will seek your God to have you. Do you understand now? If single women or single men in the church truly had faith in God, many unbelievers would convert, even if at first it was out of love interest in them. Because these people have the firmness of faith to say, I will not compromise my faith for you. If God wants me to be with you, he will have to convert. You will convert. Otherwise, I will not change my God for you. So this faith will be admired, and this person may say, okay, I'm really not up to you. I can't have a relationship with you. Or he will seek your God, even if it's because of you.
Yeah, because the contrary never works. It's rare for it to work because they get into a relationship with a person who is an unbeliever that doesn't fear God, thinking, no, I'm going to convert them. He's going to know Jesus. I'm going to bring him to the church. He's going to this. Just you going into a relationship with that person, you're already showing them that your faith is worth nothing. So they're going to also fake a little bit so that afterwards they can say, no, I don't want you to go to church anymore. And they know that they can do that because they know that you're going to leave your faith because you started dating them even though they didn't have your faith. So people, they lose. You lose credit, you know? And one thing that, about this that happened also with Abraham is that God did this for us. No one ever did that for me or for you. Renato didn't die for me. No one died for me. No one gave their son for me. No one did that. So the love that he has for me, that God has for me and for you, there isn't even a way for us to measure it, and for you to exchange him for a relationship, you're really asking to not see God in your life.